The King of Staten Island, which released just this past Friday, is the newest Judd Apatow film, which was written and directed by Judd Apatow, but also co-written by Pete Davidson, who also stars in it. It is Judd Apatow's newest film that he has done in 5 years. The last one he has written and directed was Trainwreck. The King of Staten Island is a good film. I'm going to start off with that. I need to preface that I may go into spoilers in this review because there are some things I need to say as far as my criticisms that involve the plot itself. So, The King of Staten Island, which stars Pete Davidson and written and directed by him and Judd Apatow, it's a good film. It's basically another Knocked Up if you strip away the Knocked Up portion of it, and that's really all it is. That's all I can say. Add in, I guess, a tattoo dream, a weird tattoo restaurant dream, but otherwise it's essentially the same story as Knocked Up without the pregnancy involved. But with that being said, The King of Staten Island on its own, like I already said, aforementioned, it is a good film. Now, the problems that I have are definitely all story-based and storytelling-based. So, in the 2 hours, 15 minutes runtime, I discovered 3 plot holes. And that's mainly due to the storytelling narrative of it. Basically, in the film, there are 3 times where he does something, he gets a job, he hangs out with somebody new, whatever it is. I'm trying not to spoil it, but there are 3 events, 3 times in the film where he's doing something that is supposed to be important to the story and the narrative, and then a big escalation happens further on in the story, and then you would expect that to be impacted in some way from said event, but they never really gleam on that particular situation, like the new job or anything. They just kind of write it off. And they did that 3 times in this one film. And honestly, that could be the distribution company basically doing what Warner Bros. Did to Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. It was maybe it was like a 2.5, almost 3 hour film, and they said this is too long. They stripped some things out, and I mean none of it's okay. It's honestly not a cohesive film. It's a good film. It's smoothly transitioned and everything, but there are definitely some jarring moments where something happens with Pete Davidson's character and something else happens, and then they never really reflect on that first thing ever again. It's just kind of there, and you ask yourself, what happened with that at the end? 3 times I discovered that. Another thing I have to say story-wise is so one of their neighbors gets angry at his mother because he purposefully tattooed his 9-year-old son. And yeah, it already sounds ridiculous. Well, it gets even better. The angry dad basically hooks up with his mom, Pete Davidson's mom, in the movie, and they become a thing, and he moves in, and stuff escalates. And I will admit that there is actually one semi big plot twist that honestly I expected, but they kind of one-up themselves. About half of it was pretty unpredictable. The other half was just kind of meh. I already figured that was going to happen. But after that, I do have to say, they go with the direction of the story of Pete Davidson's character needing to find a place to live because he's on his own now, and eventually he gets back together with the wannabe stepdad, who is played by Bill Burr, and it just, through the whole film, Bill Burr's character, Ray, I thought he was an extremely fake character. I thought Bill Burr did a good job acting, and I understand they wrote his character to kind of be that fake character, but to me, he was just, he was a nuisance. He brought nothing but negativity to the story. He's like a tick on your shoulder that you can feel crawling up. It's just, you don't want him there. He's annoying. And not to mention, they try to force them to bond throughout most of the rest of the movie, and it's way too forced. Another part of the story I did not like very well was Pete Davidson's character's wannabe girlfriend. I get where they were going with it. She was trashy from from the intro to the middle of the film, and then you find out she's actually trying to do better in her life, and that's fine. Like, she's going for a civil test and everything at the near the end, and she's actually studying, and they try to make her seem like they make her seem like she's not a stereotype, but she still is. Okay, it's definitely a copy and paste job of, here's a trashy looking girl, but we're just gonna add in some smarts into her. It didn't work for me at all. Another point I have to add that I have to critique about the story, the writing of it, and this can definitely parallel with the plot holes. I believe that some, maybe a good bit of the film is unrealistically written at times. I think that sometimes they go way over their heads, and as a realist, I always call out what is supposed to happen if it happens in the real world, and to me, the big payoffs in said events are not only small payoffs, but they're not really something that would happen in real life. Otherwise, I think everybody, as an actor and actress, I think especially the newcomers, I think everybody did a good job acting. I think Judd Apatow really helmed this film to the best of his capability. I think Pete Davidson did a remarkable job. Nothing against the actors. Mainly just story bits I have problems with. Otherwise, it's a solid film. I'd say at least watch it once. It's not perfect. It's not Judd Apatow's best feature film ever. I honestly would say that's still to this day knocked up. But otherwise, The King of Staten Island receives a solid 7 out of 10 from me. Thank you.